The wind rolled across the open plains like a restless spirit, carrying dust, cold, and the secrets of the Wild West. The sun was dipping toward the horizon, bleeding orange and gold across the endless sky, when the rancher first saw her. A small, thin figure standing alone near the edge of his north pasture, wrapped in a torn deerskin shawl, her dark hair blown wild by the wind. Jacob Tanner halted his horse. In all his years living on the frontier, through raids, storms, cattle rustlers, and bitter winters, he had never seen a sight like this. The girl looked barely 18, maybe 19, Apache, judging by the beadwork on her clothing, but she was trembling, exhausted, as if every step had been a battle. Jacob wasn't a man who frightened easily. At 36, tall, scarred, and hardened by a life that demanded more grit than most men possessed, he had earned a fearsome reputation in town. But seeing her standing there, shaking in the dying light, something deep inside him stirred, something he thought he had buried long ago after losing his wife and unborn child. The girl raised her chin, trying to look brave, but her voice cracked when she spoke. "Please," she whispered, I seek shelter." Jacob dismounted slowly, cautious. These lands had seen too much bloodshed between settlers and Apache. He knew that taking her in might mean trouble, but leaving her out here meant certain death. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Nara." He could see the fear in her eyes, fear of being rejected, chased, beaten, or worse. It was a fear he recognized well. The frontier could be cruel to the weak. "You injured?" Jacob asked. She looked down. Her ankle was swollen, wrapped in a makeshift strip of cloth that was soaked through with blood. She had walked far too far. "Come on," he said finally. "You'll stay at the ranch." Nara's eyes widened, as if she hadn't expected kindness. As Jacob lifted her onto his horse, she whispered words so soft he almost missed them. "I belong with a man like you." Jacob stiffened. Those were dangerous words, soft, broken, and full of desperate trust. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned the horse toward his ranch and began the long ride home. The night settled over them as they traveled, coyotes howling in the distance. Nara leaned against him, too weak to sit straight. Jacob could feel how light she was, how starved and exhausted. Whatever she had survived, it had nearly taken her life. When they reached the ranch, the lanterns were already glowing in the windows. Jacob lifted her down gently and carried her inside. His home was simple: a fireplace, wooden table, a cot in the corner, and shelves filled with tools and old memories. He set her near the fire, wrapped her in a blanket, and warmed water for her wounds. Nara watched him quietly, her dark eyes following every movement. "Why help me?" she asked. Jacob didn't answer right away. He wasn't used to talking about himself. He cleaned her ankle carefully, binding it with fresh cloth. "Because you needed help," he said finally. Nara's lips trembled. "My people, they cast me out. They say I am cursed, that I bring misfortune." Jacob lifted his gaze. The frontier could be harsh even within tribes. He didn't ask what she had done. It didn't matter tonight. "You're safe here," he said simply. Her chest rose with a shaky breath, as if those words were more than she believed she deserved. For the next 2 days she barely spoke. She slept, ate, healed slowly. Jacob tended to his cattle, repaired fences, mucked stalls, always keeping an eye on the small figure sitting quietly by the window or warming herself by the fire. When she walked a few steps for the first time without crying out in pain, she looked at him with a shy, grateful smile. "You saved my life," she whispered. Jacob shook his head, just doing what any decent man would. Nara stepped closer. "No, many men would rather see me dead." Her voice carried a bitter truth that made Jacob's jaw tight. The land was full of men who hated anything they didn't understand. "You can stay as long as you need," Jacob said. "Work here if you want. No harm will come to you." A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, embarrassed. "I will work," she said. "I am not a burden." Over the next week, she helped with chores, slowly at first due to her injury, then more confidently as strength returned. She learned to gather eggs, chop vegetables, brush the horses. She moved quietly, gracefully, always watching Jacob with a mixture of respect and something deeper, something she tried to hide. One evening, after a long day of work, Jacob found her sitting on the porch, staring at the stars. He stepped out quietly, but she sensed him and turned. "Do you miss anyone?" she asked. Jacob leaned against the post, looking out at the endless night sky. "My wife," he said after a long pause. "She died 3 winters ago." Nara lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." He nodded, staring into the distance. "I thought I'd be alone forever." Nara swallowed. "I thought no man would ever protect me or look at me with kindness." Her voice softened. "Until I met you." Jacob's breath hitched. He turned to her, but she looked away, nervous, afraid she had said too much. "Nara," he began. But before he could finish, a distant sound interrupted them, hoofbeats, fast, urgent. Jacob straightened. "Get inside," he said. Nara froze. "Is it my tribe?" "Maybe, or worse." He grabbed his rifle and moved toward the gate. 3 riders approached, their guns visible even in the moonlight. They were settlers, mean, trouble-making men Jacob had seen in town before. Men who blamed Apache for every stolen cow, every missing horse, every bad harvest. The lead rider stopped in front of Jacob. "We heard you're harboring an Apache," he sneered. "We want her." Jacob's jaw hardened. "She's under my protection." "She's a savage," one man spat. "Give her to us or we burn your ranch." Behind the door, Nara trembled. She had faced death before, but now she wasn't alone, and that terrified her more. Jacob raised his rifle calmly. "This ranch doesn't hand people over to cowards." The men glared. "Then you're a dead man." A tense silence followed, cold, dangerous. Jacob's voice was low. "You take 1 step toward that house, and I'll put you in the ground." The lead man snarled, spitting on the dirt. "You're a fool, Tanner. Protecting her will ruin you." Jacob didn't flinch. "I've survived worse." The riders cursed and turned their horses around. "This ain't over," one shouted. When the hoofbeats faded into the night, Jacob stepped back onto the porch. Nara was standing there, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You risked your life for me," she whispered. Jacob wiped the sweat from his brow, exhaling shakily. "Nobody touches you, not while I'm alive." She collapsed against him, trembling. He hesitated, only for a moment before wrapping his arms around her. She was so light, so fragile, yet the emotion radiating from her was overwhelming. "You don't owe me anything," he said softly. Nara looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. "I belong with a man like you, a man who sees me, who protects me, who doesn't fear me." Jacob swallowed hard. Her words pierced something inside him he thought was long dead. "You don't belong to anyone," he murmured. "But if you choose to stay, I won't stop you." Her fingers curled around his shirt as she whispered, "I choose you." Life on the ranch changed after that, slowly, gently. Nara filled the silent house with soft humming, laughter, warmth. Jacob taught her how to ride, how to rope cattle, how to mend fences. She cooked meals for him, left him small hand-woven gifts, and sat beside him at night by the fire. 2 worlds, Apache and rancher, 2 people scarred by loss, fate, and loneliness, slowly healed together. And one spring morning, as the sun rose over the rolling hills, Jacob turned to her and said the words she had waited her whole life to hear. "You belong with me, Nara, and I belong with you." She threw her arms around him, tears falling freely. In the vast, unforgiving Wild West, where survival was uncertain, where hatred ran deep, 2 broken souls had found something rare. A home, a partner, a love meant to survive every storm.